Join me in making the PieDuo Posy Earrings. These earrings are also included in the August subscription box, the Kit Edition. So if you subscribe to the Kit Edition box, you will get this particular colorway of the earrings that you see in the video here. I'm going to begin by making the center section of my flower. I have 6 of my SuperDuos here, and with my needle and thread, I'm just going to pick up all 6 of those SuperDuos. And let those SuperDuos fall down towards the end of your thread. And you're only going to need about 3 feet or so. And then once you have these towards the end of your thread, we're going to take our thread and just tie it in a little knot. So as we tie it in a knot, our SuperDuos will form a little circle. And I'm going to go ahead and do another knot here just to secure it. And you can see I don't have very much thread at the end here, just a few inches, and you actually don't even need as much as I have here. So now with our thread, I'm going to go through the top hole or the outside hole of my SuperDuo. So I'm going through the hole here along the outside of my project. And as I go from SuperDuo to SuperDuo, I'm going to pick up one of my PieDuos and one of my 15-0 seed beads. And I'm going to use a 15-0 here in a color that is very similar to my SuperDuo. This is a 15-0 here, and then of course my PieDuos. So I've got my thread coming out of the open hole or the top outside hole of my SuperDuo. And I'm going to pick up one PieDuo, and I'm picking it up so that my needle is first going through the flat side and then coming out on the curved edge there. And then I'm going to pick up one of my 15-0s, and I'm going to let that fall down. And then as I'm coming out of this SuperDuo here, I'm going to go through the next SuperDuo, through that same hole on the outside. And again, I'm just going to keep picking up these PieDuos and one SuperDuo, or I'm sorry, one 15-0, and through the next SuperDuo. And as you do this, it can be a little easy for these PieDuos to kind of twist on you, and they may not lay flat between the SuperDuos. And like you can see here, this kind of wants to twist around on me. So as you pull, just make sure that they lay flat and you don't have any slack in your thread. And as you do this, of course, you also want to make sure that your PieDuos are facing the same way. Because after you see a lot of PieDuos, after you do this a bunch, they all start to kind of look the same no matter how they sit. So you want to be careful that you're always picking it up through that flat edge or if it's straight edge, and you're coming out on the curved side. And that will allow all of your PieDuos to sit the same between your SuperDuos so that your points, there we go. Thought I made a mistake. So you can see your points are all on the same side going around here. So once we have this, we're going to actually start on the inside here and make a little center section to be like the little center of our flower. So once you get to this point, we'll move on to the center. To work on the center of our flower, we're going to take our needle and thread, and coming out of one of the SuperDuos here, we're going to take our needle and thread and go through that inside hole of the SuperDuo. So it's like we're doing a little U-turn on that bead, coming out the top hole or the outside hole and then going into the inside hole here. And then this way we'll have our thread all the way in the center of our project coming out of one of those inside holes here so we can work at the center. And if you see mine here, see that after you put those PieDuos in, your SuperDuos here in the center have sort of spaced and sort of given sort of given way in the center there so that you have a little space between them. So don't try to pull that really tight because we're actually going to add a little seed bead in there right now. So you don't need to pull that too tight. So if you already have, you can loosen your thread a little bit and just let that space sit. Coming out of that SuperDuo, I'm going to pick up one of my seed beads here. And now you can do either color here. I'm just going to shift this over a little bit. So we can do either color here. I'm going to pick up the contrasting color that I have now. So I've got my A color here, which is my green color, and my B color 15-0 that I just poured out. This is a contrasting color. You can do this in any way that you want. You can use the A or the B at this point, but I'm going to go ahead and show it to you with the B color here so that it's also easy for you to see in the video. So I've got one of those 15-0s in the B color, and coming out of my SuperDuo, I'm just going to go through the hole in the next SuperDuo. And you don't have to pull real tight. You don't have to pull really tight and try to get the 15-0 sitting snugly between the SuperDuos, because we're actually going to then add on top of these 15-0s and they'll sort of get pulled up. So it may feel a little bit wonky at this point, but that's okay. Usually I feel like in videos I'm telling you to pull tight and to get rid of any slack, but in this one here, we want to sort of let that go for the moment, because we want those 15-0s to sort of fill in the gaps, but they're also going to kind of pop up and sit a little bit above the SuperDuos. And this is my last 15-0, so I'm adding my 15-0, and I'm going through my SuperDuo, and I'm also going to go through that 15-0. So now I'm going to start adding some more 15-0s to kind of build this up a little bit and make like a little flower center to my flower. I'm going to pick up one of my one of my B colors here, and then one of the A colors, and then one of the B. So I've got a pink, a green, and a pink. And coming out of my pink bead, I'm going to go to the next pink bead and just pass through that bead. So you can see that as we pass through the beads here, it's nice that they're sitting a little bit above the SuperDuos. Oop, I got a little bit of a knot here. So if your thread gets a little stuck, just be gentle with it. Don't try to pull, because then you can make your knot worse. Okay, there we go. So you can see here what I've done is I've just added a pink, a green, and a pink, and then I've gone through the next pink. The next pink between my SuperDuos. I'm going to go through the pink that I just added, so the pink bead that's sitting right next to the pink bead sitting between the SuperDuos. So up through that bead. And then I'm going to pick up a green and a pink, so an A and a B bead, and then go through my next pink bead between the SuperDuos. You can see he kind of fell down there, so I'm going to just use my needle here and kind of pop that up and pass through that pink bead. And again here, I'm going to skip this bead that I'm coming out of, and I want to go through the one next to it. So the second of the two beads that I just added, and go up through that pink bead, pick up another green and another pink, through the next pink bead between my SuperDuos, and through the pink bead right above it, another green and a pink, through the pink bead, through the next pink bead, and through the bead right above it. So these little pink beads that I'm going through again, I'm sharing them. sharing them between the SuperDuos here. Another green and another pink. And through the last pink bead here between the SuperDuos that I haven't gone through yet. One more time up here, up through the pink bead right above it. And now to close this little circle here, to close this gap, I'm going to pick up one green and I'm going to go down through the pink bead on the other side. And my pink bead below it, that is sitting between the SuperDuos. And be careful not to get your thread caught on any of the PieDuos, because as they're sitting out here, they can be really easy to get caught on. They can be really easy to catch on your thread as you work around. So I'm going to go now up through the pink bead right above where my thread is coming out. And now I'm going to go through all the little green beads at the top and pass through each one of them one by one so that I can cinch them all together and bring them to the center. And once you've gone through all of these beads in the center, I like to go around another time just to get a good grip on it and pull it nice and tight to the center. Sometimes I find that going through another time just helps to make it a little bit tighter. So now that I've got my thread going through all these beads in the center, you can see that I've pulled those beads that I added to the center and I've cinched them all together. So it gives you the effect of a little flower with that center. You can add a crystal or a pearl or another bead if you want to in the center here of a contrasting color. And to do that, all you need to do is, I'm going to add a little 15-0. So coming out of the green bead where I am, I'm just going to pick up whatever color I want to use here. I want to add that pink just to give it a little extra dimension. And I'm going to go through the bead on the opposite. I'm going through the green bead directly across from where I am. And then I'm going to go back through that pink bead that I just added and back through the green bead on the other side. So I'm simply just adding that little bead in the center to give it an extra little punch. So once you get to this point, we're going to be done with the center and we'll move on to doing the rest of the flower on the outside and working more with the PieDuos. Now we're ready to move on to the outside and work more with the PieDuos and add some crystals and just kind of have a little bit more fun with it. So I am coming out of the last seed bead that I took my thread through, and that is one of my green beads here in the center. So what I need to do now is get my needle and thread to the outside here so I can work with the PieDuos. I'm going to take my needle and thread and go through one of my pink beads here, and then the other pink bead here below it, that's sitting between the SuperDuos. And I'm going to go through my SuperDuo, and then I'm also now going to go through the top of the SuperDuo, so through the bottom of the SuperDuo and then through the top here, through the 15-0 and the PieDuo. So now going through the PieDuo, I'm going through this inside hole, the hole that's closer to the inside here of my project. And I want to start working with the very outside of the project. So I'm going to take my needle and thread and go through the other hole of the PieDuo, the one that's on the outside. So now I'm facing, so now my thread is coming out of this curved side and facing the next PieDuo here. So now I'm in position to start adding my crystals. I have my little 3mm crystals here, and I'm going to use my crystals and my A color seed bead. I'm going to pick up 2 of my 15-0s and 1 crystal, and then 2 more 15-0s. And go through the open hole here of the PieDuo. And I'm going to continue doing this the entire way around until I've gone through all the PieDuos and I have all my PieDuos connected with bicones. Now that I've finished adding the bicones all around my PieDuos, I'm going to add some more 15-0s around the edge here. So coming out of my PieDuo, I'm going to go through the next 2 15-0s, and I'm going to pick up 4 more 15-0s in my A color. I'm going to skip over my bicone and go through the next 2 15-0s. And then I'm going to pick up 5 15-0s, skip over my PieDuo, and go through the next 2 15-0s. And I'm going to continue this way around until I've added my 15-0s on top of each of my bicones and over each of my PieDuos. Now that we've added the 15-0s to the outside of our project, we're going to connect some of these 15-0s here to the inside 15-0s and add a little embellishment that will outline some of our PieDuos and just add a little bit more of a dimension and make the PieDuos pop a little bit. So coming out of my 15-0s, I'm going to pass through my PieDuo. And I'm also going to pass through the next 15-0, so the 15-0 that's sitting directly next to that PieDuo. And I'm coming out here on the curved side of my PieDuo. So on this curved side here, coming out of that 1 15-0, I'm going to pick up 3 of my B color, or my contrasting color, of my 15-0 seed bead. And then I'm going to go through the 15-0 that sits directly below, right next to the SuperDuo at the center. And as I do that, as I pull through, my contrasting B color seed bead will sit right along the edge, the curved edge here of my PieDuo. Coming out of my seed bead here at the center, I'm going to pick up 4 of that A color seed bead, and then I'm going to go to the 15-0 that sits right above, right next to my PieDuo on that flat side. I'm going to go through that 15-0 and through my PieDuo. On the other side of my PieDuo here, I'm going to go through the next 15-0. And now I'm in position to do this same little embellishment and outline with my beads. So again, 3 of those B color, contrasting color, and then through the 15-0 right below, 4 of my A color, and through the 15-0 above, that sits right next to the PieDuo, and through the PieDuo. Once I go through the PieDuo, I'm going to go through that 15-0 directly next to it. And I'm going to continue like this, doing the same steps all the way around here until I've added this outline, this little embellishment of seed beads between all of my PieDuos. Now that we're done with our design, we're going to add an earring onto it to make it a functional earring that we can wear. My thread and needle here are coming out of that last 15-0 that I passed through, the one that's next to the PieDuo. I'm going to go up through just the next 15-0 that sits along the edge of the PieDuo. I'm going to pick up 1 15-0, and I'm just picking that up in the same color, so my green color. And I'm going to pick up my wire guard. So to pick up the wire guard, I'm just going to pass through one of the little holes here on the end. So if you look at the wire guard, it looks like a little U, and I'm just going through one side of the U. I'm going to pass down through the other side of that U. And as I pass through and pull my thread, I just want to make sure that my thread is sitting inside the U and not kind of going off to the side. Pick up another 15-0. And then above the crystal here to my right, I'm going to pass down through 2 of the seed beads on the very edge. So I'm passing through the 2 seed beads that sit directly across from the 2 seed beads that my thread is coming out of, going through those 2 seed beads on the other side of the V. One and 2. Yep. And give that a little pull here. So this will actually set your flower so that it's sort of at an angle, so you don't have a crystal or a PieDuo sitting directly straight up. You can add the wire guard someplace else if you'd like, on top of the PieDuo or a crystal if you want it to sit a little bit differently. But I like the little offset nature of this so that it's not perfectly symmetrical or perfectly sitting straight up and down. I like that it's sort of off to the side. I'm going to pass through the other 2 seed beads here on the side. So the 2 seed beads where I first started attaching my wire guards, so go through 1 seed bead and then through the next. So I'm just passing through the seed beads that I've already passed through, and 15-0 that I added at the base of my wire guard, through the wire guard again, through the one side, and down through the other side. And I'm going through this twice just because any place where your thread and needle, or sorry, where your thread is going to get the most wear and tear, it's going to move the most. I like to go through a couple times to reinforce it, to make it a little bit more secure. So now that I've gone through the wire guard and my beads twice, all I need to do here is tie off my thread wherever I want to have that end. So I'm going to go through some of my 15-0s here and just tie this off. So I'm just taking my needle and thread and going around the thread that already exists, running through my beads and making a little overhand knot. And then as I pass through the next bead, I can pull that little knot close to or through the bead, and then I'm ready to burn down my thread. I can do the same to this other end here, or what I can do is I can bring the 2 thread ends together and tie them together and then burn it down that way. So lots of options depending on just where you want your ends and how much thread you have left to work with. So I'll tie this thread off. And all you need to do here to attach your wire, your ear wire, is take your little ear wire here, and right on the end here, we're just going to lift this up. So it's actually going to bend out to the side. We're not going to pull it away from the ear wire forward. We're going to just kind of bend it to the side and put the ear wire on our little wire guard there and close it up. And I can push these out of the way. I don't need these extra beads anymore. You can see here is my little finished flower earring. Be really fun to make some little leaves to go with it, or make a few of these for a necklace or a bracelet. You can use this as a component, so instead of it just being an earring, you can have a series of them or make a whole garden on your wrist. So lots of fun ways to use this component other than earrings, but I also happen to love them as earrings. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Please leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts on the project. If you're also interested in more tutorials just like this one, click on that subscribe button so that you're notified as soon as we have new videos available.